Hello, friends. How's it going? Welcome to the Mines. If you haven't tried the Solo Self-Found Delve event yet, it is super fun. There are still 7 days remaining, and I'm having so much fun. If you don't usually play Solo Self-Found, I know I don't. It's a unique set of restrictions that just makes it so interesting and dynamic and really challenges you to see what you're able to pull off with very limited resources. And especially in Delve, we have even less access to anything that we would normally assume that we could get. And this requires us to be very, very creative about making our builds based on what we find. And also due to the nature of the content, not having to do bosses, not having to map or do any other of the regular content, we are able to also hyper specialize in the Delve style of play. Let's get into the details about what I've done the past 3 days, and maybe this will entice you to give it a go yourself. All right, so this is from the stream on Friday. I started off with the idea of I wanted to do a Trickster again. I did a Trickster last Endless Delve race, and he is like the least played Ascendancy in the game right now. I wanted to show him a little love. He is one of my favorite Ascendancies in the game. I know he's not really in the best place, but he does have some extra defensive characteristics. Due to the nature of the rewards being based around the Ascendancy, maybe something that is a little less popular is easier for me to be up there on the ladder. So that was my general idea. I wanted to play around with doing cold damage over time. That was my initial idea. And as you'll see in a little bit, that is what I ended up doing anyway. But with this guy, I took a look at the starting claw, and I saw that he starts with a claw that gives you level 20 hatred right off the bat, has an okay amount of physical damage, and it gives you life gain on hit, not only for attacks, but also for spells. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I can play around with spells here, take advantage of the fact that hatred is incredibly strong. I played around with looking at my different physical skills, what I had access to, and what I actually ended up doing is playing around with ethereal knives. I haven't used EK in a long, long time. I've never actually mained it as a primary skill. I know that it's way, way better with the threshold jewel that lets it go in an AoE. But you know what? I really like to look at these events and focus on how I can improve and challenge myself, try something new, try something different. And so this is me actually going into the very, very first node. It is arguably the hardest thing that you're going to do until you get to about depth 100. You have no defensive utilities. You have just your bad flasks. All your gems are level 1. My recommendation, if you are trying to get into this, especially if you're playing hardcore, we had a lot of people that were ripping just on the node 1. Take it very, very slow. You can see how I do this is I am just walking directly with the cart. I am not getting too far ahead of it or too far behind it. Picking up the things that I get, making sure I get the items, even the white items that drop, right? That will give me some additional armor. That was actually a little bit close, but I went for those gloves that gave me some additional armor, some chromes for some colors. Try to catch back up to the cart there. I played this build for a while. I got him to level 28. I never ascended. I just got him far enough along, and the damage actually fell off like really, really significantly, as one would expect. And I didn't see a path for turning him into something that I really, really liked. Even if I ended up going into cold damage over time and with a trickster and everything, there was something about it that I was just really turned off with balancing the offense and the defense there. And I ended up not really feeling it. Raider is my favorite Ascendancy. She has really, really good defense. Scaling the offense for what I'm going to go for here might be a little bit challenging, but let's see what we can pull off with the bow and this insane quiver. So what I did is I took this bow as well, and the bow is actually a really, really nice starter bow, has decent attack speed, has a good chunk of physical damage, and the projectile return, like Vengeance Cascade, is really, really strong if you have something like Pierce and Hydrosphere. I didn't get to quite that point, though. I did respec before I took advantage of the Hydrosphere shenanigans. I just equipped Ice Shot for a handful of nodes, use this to get the first dozen or so levels on the character, and then I respec to this. So this is a build that I've been wanting to revisit for a while. I kind of played around with it 2 leagues ago. I never fully put it together, but it was something that's been stuck in the back of my mind. There's nothing crazy about it. It's just Rain of Arrows with cold conversion. And I just wanted to see what it would feel like in this event. Maybe I could push it to a point where it would feel really good. Spoilers, I couldn't get it quite as far as I really wanted it to, but I had a lot of fun using it, for a while. And now you can see the beginning of my descent into madness here. So that character didn't quite work out. The damage was a little lackluster, wasn't going to get very far. What can I do after that? So I had this character in Scourge League that I was actually playing around with, trying to respec one of my occultists. I have multiple. Into seeing what I could do with a cold occultist, but doing a little bit different. What I ended up doing was a Sire of Shards cast while channeling Creeping Frost and Cold Snap and some Vortex and some Frost Bolts even. And it's actually really, really fun. I have that on an occultist in Scourge League, and I have it doing about T14 maps really, really comfortable. And I'm excited to push that build a little bit further. And I thought, hey, can I do that on a Raider in this league? And the answer so far is yes, and it's doing incredibly well. So as you can see, this is the original incarnation. Is I found a cold damage over time scepter. I put on a shield, and I just did a single cast while channeling Creeping Frost with Cyclone, and then I have Vortex on my W as well. So I just hold Q and W to Cyclone and Vortex. And I have Bone Chill linked to the Creeping Frost, so I'm able to get bonus damage to the monsters when I pass over them with the Vortex. And this was the original incarnation. Ideally, I would like to find a Sire of Shards and be able to do Creeping Frost in a big AoE. It doesn't give me any bonus damage, but it's really nice for just hitting the entire screen and clearing it in a very, very comfortable way. So that's the general idea and the exception. I was, because we can't rely on hitting the things that we want in this super specialized solo self-found SSSF, version of play, obviously we have to make do with what we get and kind of just play around with that. So I was kind of assuming that I'm just going to try to scale my damage over time multiplier with the gear that I get and build very, very defensively and tanky, assuming that my clear is going to be a little clunky. It's going to be basically a regular cold dot character that actually just loses 2 links to cast while channeling and Cyclone, but I get the benefit of always being on the move, always having Creeping Frost coming out, and not having to stop and cast and worrying about getting stunned or interrupted or anything while I'm just trying to smoothly get through the delve. So that thing about not getting uniques that you can expect to get, literally 10 minutes after I respec this character into the cold damage over time setup and hoping that I would find one someday, this happened. You're kidding me. Could not have been better divine providence from our Lord and Savior, Chris Wilson himself. I got my Sire of Shards. I don't know. I don't even know. It's absolutely crazy. I was just absolutely stunned for like 10 minutes afterwards. I couldn't believe it. We actually had some people in chat that were dropping exalts and dropping, we've seen pictures of people getting mage bloods, but there is not a single other item that I wanted more than that. And it was just meant to be. So this is what we have. Now, I said about my in-stacking Raider that was the tankiest character that I've ever made. It probably is still true, but honestly, if this character were in league play and I got just, slightly better gear, I think how tanky this character is, the damage doesn't even compare to the in-stacker. But in terms of pure tankiness, especially what I've been able to pull off with SSF, this is on a whole nother level. With my flasks up, I have 7,300 armor, which can get significantly higher, 85% evasion, very solid 425 life regen per second. We have 76, 77, 76 on our elemental resistances, 20% block, 36% stun avoidance, only 80% ignite avoidance. I figured that was very, very low priority, so I actually didn't take that one node, but 100% chill, freeze, and shock avoidance. And without a movement flask, we run around very, very fluidly and smoothly, as well as permanent phasing, so we don't have to worry about bumping into monsters or anything. The way that this character works is I have my Sire of Shards. Socketed gems fire 4 additional projectiles, and they fire in a circle. And then I have with Cyclone, cast while channeling, and Creeping Frost. And so I can just do my Cyclone and it shoots the Creeping Frost in a circle, and I'm able to do my cold damage over time in a very nice radius, hit the entire screen, hit the entire delve tunnel as I'm going down, and never really stop for anything as I'm going. I also have Vortex here in my 5 link, linked with Swift Affliction, Controlled Destruction, Efficacy, and Hypothermia. This means that my Vortex is my single target damage, or frankly, it's like my real damage. Creeping Frost alone is not doing very much damage at all, but it is linked to Bone Chill, which means that enemies chilled by supported skills increase cold damage taken by the chill effect. And so how much they are chilled by Creeping Frost is how much increased cold damage that they have taken. And so the Creeping Frost is really just the primer, and then the Vortex will be the actual single target for the harder stuff. Creeping Frost does enough damage to kill the white monsters, and it'll get some of the blues, and then Vortex does the rest of the business. And then I also have Cold Snap in this other 4-link here, with Hypothermia, Controlled Destruction, and Swift Affliction. This is just some bonus damage, as well as giving me Frenzy charges to make me faster and do more damage as well. Then I also have Vol Cold Snap, which I can proc and then run, and then it's just additional cold damage over time as I'm running down the lane. And then for defensive layers, we got a lot. That's been I'm in hardcore. This is the main focus of the build. I'm using Defiance Banner, which gives me increased armor and evasion rating. And then nearby enemies also have reduced critical strike chance, which is really, really nice. And then enemies that are taunted when I place the Defiance Banner will actually deal 15% less damage, which is huge. I have Steel Skin on left click. This is my bleeding shedding as well. It takes a moderate hit. My Life Flask is my main way to get rid of bleeding and corrupting blood, but Steel Skin is honestly good enough most of the time. I'm running Determination and Grace. I am stacking both evasion and armor. I want to not get hit as much as possible, but if I do get hit, I don't want to instantly fall over and die. So that's my primary defensive layers there. And then in addition to that, I do have Enduring Cry. Gives me dubious value, honestly. I don't really get the full endurance charges all the time, but once in a while, 6% additional physical damage reduction is a nice little bonus, and a nice, fill up of your life as well every 8 seconds or so. So the Enduring Cry is pretty low value, and it's kind of annoying to have that 0.6 second cast time that I don't really love. This is kind of a low value node that I'm considering dropping, but I also run Vitality, and I have actually just a lot of life regen on the tree, and on a lot of my gear, actually. I actually ended up incidentally just getting life regen on a whole bunch of different pieces, which actually ends up adding up to, over 300 life regen all the time, which is really nice for dealing with any incidental hits that come in. In addition to that, I do have Ghost Dance. So, I have a small amount of energy shield, but it's just enough so that if I take a hit with my evasion rating, I will get back around 300 to 400 energy shield, which is why I have this amount here. And then because I'm a Raider, who gets plus 40% spell suppression for free on my Ascendancy and permanent phasing, I am able to get away with just taking a few suppression nodes on the tree and actually end up with 100% spell suppression chance, which means that every single spell that hits me will do actually 47% damage because I have plus 3% on my spell suppression right there. So it's an incredible defensive layer for any spells that might hit me. Besides that, for the gear, obviously since it's Delve solo self-found, I don't even get a crafting bench. I can only take advantage of what I get. I did find a Frostbite on Hit Ring last night. I went to a node that said contains cold items. I got very, very lucky and got this one. It actually has incredible res and some life on it as well. This just really, really helps me with my damage as I'm clearing around. I don't have to manually cast Frostbite or do a Frostbite on hit setup with Hex Touch. Literally the rest of my gear is just look for as much life and res as possible. And then I am valuing armor and evasion basically identically. Sometimes I can't go for really high armor or evasion because this is what my 5-link is, and there's really, really good life and res on this, so I just have to hold on to it. This is just regular gear. So that's just what you're going to go for as you're going through, super solo self-found. And then I have my Sire of Shards. In terms of the flasks, a Corrupted Blood Bleeding Life Flask. I just always like putting bleeding/corrupted blood on my life flask. It's just a habit that I've always had. An Enduring Mana Flask. This build does kind of struggle with mana if you're not actively killing anything. That Enduring Mana Flask really makes a big, big difference. In addition to that, I have some cool tech from Shack Central. You can actually throw Siphoning Trap right here. I'm actually out of buttons. This is a very button-intensive build. So I actually have to use this on my control Q. I use Siphoning Trap, which will actually do cold damage over time and siphon life and mana from the monsters and give it to you. So it's a really nice defensive layer to just keep you topped up across the board. So yeah, thank you Shack Central for that. That's a super, super awesome tech that you might want to incorporate as well, especially if you're doing any cold damage over time. I have this Amethyst Flask of the Antelope, which is 50% increased evasion rating. Chaos damage is pretty rare in delving, But when it happens, you want to be prepared. I worked very, very hard to fit an amethyst ring into this build. It was hard to balance all my reses and make this fit in with all the amethyst rings that I've been finding. I've been doing everything from rolling fossils, every single essence that I get, picking up every single amethyst ring. And this is the best that I can get so far. And, you know, it's not bad. When chaos damage happens, you want to be prepared. You don't want to be on the ground dead and just be like, well, didn't know I was going to fight a chaos spider that happened to also poison me and instantly kill me before I get hit my logout macro. So I focus very hard on getting this amethyst ring in here. Unfortunately, this still puts me at negative 30 chaos res, but if I pop my amethyst flask, I am at positive 6, which, you know, I try really hard to keep my flasks up as much as possible. It's pretty crucial to live during this hardcore delve event. And so I'm basically assuming that I'm around 0 chaos res, which should be enough to keep me alive, you know, from any incidental chaos damage. I am very conscious also of looking at the nodes, seeing if it might say monsters have a chance to poison, stuff like that, and being a little bit wary of that. I have a granite flask and a jade flask. Just increase duration on both of these guys, keep them over 8 seconds. This is what really gives me a great defensive layer. They stack incredibly well with your grace and your determination, keeping that armor and evasion as high as possible. And then for the tree, there's really nothing crazy here. You know, getting some aura stuff and then just getting life, getting spell suppression, getting some bonus cold damage here. And this mastery is really, really nice. Another -5 to the 20 cold exposure that we inflict as part of Avatar the Veil is really, really nice for our defenses here. That is really important because we have to focus so hard on defense here. Oh yeah, and I guess first things first, our Ascendancy. Quartz Infusion, this is like the main reason why I'm picking Raider. 40 spell suppression and permanent phasing. You can't speak loud enough for how good this is in Delve. Permanent phasing, I don't have to run a Quartz Flask. I can just run up and down. I never have to worry about bumping into anything, even if my flasks run out. It's night and day huge. Avatar the Veil is absolutely incredible in here. It gives me free 20% minus res to the monsters that are nearby. Really, really good damage. And then the 50% chance to avoid elemental ailments while phasing in conjunction with going Crystal Skin, which I did take the chill, freeze, and the shock. I ignored the ignite, assuming that, you know, I don't get ignited too often. This actually makes me effectively ailment immune, which is really, really huge. So this allows me to roll anything that I want on my flask. Don't have to worry about immunity to freeze or anything like that, because in this event, we do not have access to the Pantheon, so we can't get immunity to freeze there. And then in addition to that, just getting Onslaught with Avatar the Chase, 10% more chance to evade. Just that plus 10% flat evasion rating is huge. And then being able to run really, really fast and smoothly without a Quicksilver Flask gives, you know, it really relieves the flask pressure. If I was on another build, that might be really, really slow. And then just taking cold damage, life and energy shield, cold damage, you know, life, evasion, cold damage, ailment avoidance. And then the interesting thing is that we are working our way down here. I'm actually not 100% on board with this. Also, this entire build, I haven't opened POB once. I haven't looked at anyone else's builds. This is all from the back of my head, or top of my head, or front of my head. I don't know, somewhere in my head. I'm just trying to intuitively figure something out, challenge myself to come up with a build on the fly, pick up things off the ground, and kind of play the game in a vacuum. And it's been really, really fun to kind of challenge myself that way. So my basic concept here that I'm thinking is I want to actually get over to this mana reservation node and then get an additional +1 max all res and more armor, and then determination increased mana reservation efficiency here. So currently I'm actually not running determination. I'm using malevolence instead. You know, as you can see, I'm a little tight on the mana. If I want to get tankier, I can put on determination instead, get that armor to like a nice, you know, get it to like a nice, more comfortable, chunky level, right? 16k armor if I'm running that. But if I'm not running it, you know, only 6k armor, it's a pretty big night and day difference. I'm moderately comfortable with my tankiness right now at the current depth that I'm at, but that is the main thing that I want to do as I level up. I'm 87 right now. I think I calculated it at level 91. I'll be able to get that, and then hopefully I'll be able to run both of them. So that is the plan. So as I said, I'm at depth, like I'm a roughly depth 110, but let's do this 106 node and do a little demonstration of what the build looks like. Double check before we do the node. Mouse over and look in that lower left corner. Make sure there's nothing really, really scary there. My flasks are not up. I have to be conscious of that. And then we just go forward and spin to win. Now, as you can see, the damage is respectable. It's not like incredible. I'm not one-shotting anything, but it's cold damage over time, and the monsters just kind of melt behind me. Because I have phasing all the time, I just walk through the monsters. I don't have to worry about any of that. I can drop my Defiance Banner, can do Vol Cold Snap, keep on going around in a circle, keep my flask up, never have to stand still. This is the very, very nice thing. I can do Enduring Cry, get some endurance charges. Vol Cold Snap again. And I just hold Q and W and go in a circle. And as you can see, I almost never get hit. My my life and ES stay topped up really nicely. Pick up the loot here. Pick up my Defiance Banner again. That is a one little finicky thing. Got to make sure you don't drop your Defiance Banner and not pick it up again before you go on the next node. And that's what it feels like. Cold damage overtime Raider with a Sire of Shards, Castwell channeling Creeping Frost. It's really fun. I guess I ended up going into more detail about this build than I was planning for this video, but I'm actually really proud of it and happy that it's working out so well. So I know I'm not like super deep right now or super high level compared to the hardcore racers, but I'm having a ton of fun taking my time, kind of working on a build, you know, workshopping it on my own. It is a 10-day event. I am playing hardcore, and so I want to be very careful. If you guys are interested in the build, I'm not going to have the POB because this build is really, I'm changing things constantly all the time. I will link my profile, and if you want to, you can always import my profile into POB. You can get the latest status of what it's looking like. You can just go to account name, subtract them. This character's name is VerySmoothlyWalking, which is what we're trying to do here. And you can always just keep up to date with what the build is looking like and how I'm putting together and how I'm making changes. And I think that's really going to be the best way to follow along instead of, you know, just trying to look at a static POB, because I'm like literally changing every single node, trying to pick up different gear and fiddle things around. So since this is so solo self-found, this isn't really something that really deserves, you know, a static POB anyway. So yeah, cheers everyone. Thanks for watching this kind of messy, impromptu diary recap of the past 3 days of me playing this race. You know, as I keep saying, it's really fun. It's a super unique challenge. You know, it's a 10-day race, and I think that this is a cool way to look at Path of Exile through a different lens. You know, we often get kind of siloed off thinking about the game in a very specific way. And this game itself is such a hodgepodge of different systems that have been put together in so many different ways that it's cool to look at it through a totally different perspective, think about how we can specialize, build a character, and improve ourselves by learning through that process. If you've given this league a shot or you decide to give it a shot, I would love to hear how that goes. Thank you so much for liking, watching, subscribing to this video, and joining me on this journey way deep down into the scary cold mines with Nico. He's a little bit of a crazy guy. You never really know what he's gonna do. As always, don't forget to have fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye. A special thank you to all of my patrons. You folks put in a little extra and really make this all possible. And if you are interested in becoming a patron, you can go to patreon.com/subtractem, and there are some extra bonuses there if you may be interested. So thank you to Tricky Nick, Don, Robin K, Sailkite, Aaron White, Colin, Exverdidius, Gazer1990, Michael Rack, Mr. Dobalina, Nikolai, Polsky, Sixlink Andrew, Amarius, Alex B, Bifrost50, Mark Hahn, Rentner, and Sachin S. Thank you everybody for being a patron. Thank you for all support. And thank you.